let's get on to what are we covering? September?
Yeah, September. Yeah. Starting with the 6th. Somehow, I think Mill Creek has managed to get the rights to some of these Hammer films, and they've done 2 Blu-ray double feature editions of classic Hammer films. So one of the collections has the 2 Faces of Dr. Jekyll and the Gorgon on one disc, and the other one has the Revenge of Frankenstein and the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb on the same disc. So,
are any of those like? Do those have like the established Hammer stars like Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing or anybody? It seems to me that they don't.
Yeah, Revenge of Frankenstein has Michael Ripper, Peter Cushing. It's directed by Terence Fisher, of course, who directed many of those Hammer productions.
And the Gorgon has Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing too. So.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some of the stalwart, the regular cast that you would expect from these Hammer productions. It's they're there.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah. So if you're fans of Hammer, it's kind of good to see them release some things that are not centered around Dracula or because you get so many of those. It's good to see them dig into the Hammer vaults and do something different. But
yes, I agree.
Anyway, yeah. So Warner Brothers issued the Iron Giant Signature Edition, which I did not get a chance to look at it. So have you guys looked at it? It's with the extra footage and whatnot. And
I haven't, but I mean, how much do they add to it? Do you know? Like,
I think it's about it's around 7 minutes or something like that. I think it's stuff that Brad Bird really wanted to include. It was very important for him to get, and they just didn't get it finished in time or something. I think, but I heard it's beautiful though. If you're a fan of the movie, I've been told by some colleagues who've gotten review copies of it that it's just outstanding as far as the transfer and all that.
I love that movie.
Yeah, so if you're a fan, I would say go and get it, and it's very inexpensive. I mean, the retail's like $9.99, and on some of the retailers online, you can get it for about $8 or something. So
that's good. I think we might get that because that is a beautiful. That's just a beautiful movie. One of the best.
I definitely think that it's worth picking up if you're a fan, of course, and we'll go through some of the other titles. These are all from September the 6th. And so also on that date, we had, let's see, just lost my place.
I can tell.
I hate when that
I've never
happens.
seen that. What is that? I've lost my place.
It's an old Jackie Gleason comedy.
It's an old Jackie Gleason comedy. So, actually, Haunted Honeymoon is one of the titles that was issued by Kino, and this was not specifically timed as a way for them to cash in on Gene Wilder's passing. This was planned earlier, and it just coincidentally worked out where they were able to move it up a week or something. And so they issued that and The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, or The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. So both of those came out from Kino. And I'd never seen Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother until I got the review copy. And it's actually, it's hit and miss, but it's that unique sense of humor that Gene Wilder had is very evident there, and I think it was a directorial debut, and a lot of the people that were in Young Frankenstein, or there's even, you can hear Mel Brooks doing a voice. He doesn't appear on screen, but you can hear his voice in one scene, and then of course there's Marty Feldman and Madeline Kahn and all that. So
I love Madeline Kahn. She might be a reason alone to watch it.
Yeah, it's worth seeing. It is. There's like I said, there's a couple laugh out loud.
I can't see myself watching Haunted Honeymoon. I just that one I can easily miss. Even though I like it, I like those. I like Wilder. I like Gilda Radner, and I like Dom DeLuise. But I just there's just something about it. I just can't watch it.
Yeah. I know it.
Something about that title. It's just like it sounds like something that would be on a like a B movie in the 1930s or something.
Yeah, I remember when it came out in theaters. I was in high school and I had no interest in it even as a teenager, and that's certainly not changed 30 years on. So we'll put it that way.
Would you say that High Spirits is better?
Boy, that's a real toss-up. That's a great double feature. Yeah, that now. I hope Tarantino's listening so he can program that at the New Beverly. That should be a good double feature: Haunted Honeymoon and High Spirits. That would just that would be the bomb. But
man.
So we do have Grandview USA from 1984. That's the first of two Patrick Swayze films that were released on the 6th. But that's one of them, and I'd never seen that. I caught up with it, and it's just kind of blah. It's average, It's got all those early '80s John Cusack's in it, and you got of course like some Patrick Swayze and Tommy Howell and Jamie Lee Curtis, and she bears a little skin in it, and it's directed by Randall Kleiser, but it's kind of.
Who's always been kind of a blah director, let's face it.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but it's true. And,
I know people love Grease and everything, but I always thought that it was a lesser piece, and Blue Lagoon, and he's just never been a great director. There's something about this though, maybe just the 80s nostalgia of it. I mean, is that enough to get you through it?
It is. Yeah, it's kind of, this is when MTV was first coming onto its own, and there's a scene in it where Tommy Howell, he fantasizes that he's in a rock video with Jamie Lee Curtis, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's hit and miss. It's just not a great film, but it's not terrible either. It's one that you really can't heartily recommend, but you can't really dismiss it either. It's like you can't. It's a taco movie, I guess. But
yes. Yeah, if you have some tacos, movie. Which I have. I went to my taco place, and I actually have tacos. I'll be having tacos at after the show.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
And probably watching something really bad.
Yep. Well, the other Patrick Swayze film would be Roadhouse, a collector's edition of Roadhouse from Shout Factory.
What makes this a collector's edition? What's on it?
Well,
finally, you mentioned a title I'm excited about.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to find the list of extras here. It's got what it has as far as it's got a new 2K scan. And for one thing, got new audio mixes. There's an audio commentary with Rowdy Harrington, and then there's the classic fan commentary with Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier. Unfortunately, they didn't put the Riff Tracks commentary on here, which would have been a good idea, I think. But anyway. And there's a second disc that has, there's a 1-hour documentary called I Thought You'd Be Bigger, The Making of Roadhouse. And there's a 30-minute conversation with director Rowdy Harrington. There's Pain Don't Hurt, The Stunts of Roadhouse. Pretty Good for a Blind White Boy, The Music of Roadhouse. And 15-minute documentary Remembering Patrick Swayze, where his widow and all the fellow cast members pay the tribute to him, and then there's a 12-minute thing called What Would Dalton Do? This is a goofy bonus feature with a bunch of actual bouncers or coolers, and they share their war stories. So,
wow.
Yeah,
they really went all out for it. I mean, that's kind of funny.
It is. They really, if you're a fan, I mean, I'd say pick it up for sure. But anyway, so how about My Bodyguard from 1980?
I adore that movie.
I do too. I actually do too.
I still think that's just a great that's just a great kids movie without it being too kiddie. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it just comes from that time period where things like like that were very very prevalent. I mean, things like I love that movie in with things like Breaking Away and so forth.
Yeah, me too.
Just kind of a gritty kind of production and a really good cast, and I guess some of it, some of that stuff with Martin Mull and everything probably doesn't work, but all the stuff with the kids is great. It's really well written. Written by Alan Ormsby, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Guy who wrote a lot of horror movies for Bob Clark.
Yep.
And I really like the score, the Dave Grusin score, and of course the two leads who, Chris Makepeace, other than Meatballs, never really did very much that I know about, except for these two movies. He's a Canadian actor that just sort of disappeared after these movies. But I think he's very good in it, and it's interesting to see the young, since it was filmed in Chicago, it's a good Chicago movie, I think. It really shows the city off very well. But you can see very young Joan Cusack in it, and a very young Jennifer Beals is in there, and of course Matt Dillon is superb in it, and so is Adam Baldwin. He's terrific in it. So I mean, it's just a really, really good movie. It's a great kind of Saturday afternoon type of movie that just makes me feel real comfy and cozy.
Yeah, I like it too. I haven't seen it in quite a while, and unfortunately, I overlooked this one when I sent my request list in for review titles, and so I'm going to have to borrow it from one of my colleagues who got a copy and revisit. But I do want.
It's always good when a movie. Yeah. It's always good when a movie about bullying makes you feel all comfy and cozy inside.
I didn't think about that aspect of it, but it does. I mean, it's like it's an underdog story, So that's kind of.
Man, when I was a kid, they would play My Bodyguard like constantly on like HBO and Cinemax and the like, and it was a big staple if you were a cable television watcher in the 80s.
Yeah, that's where it was. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it at the movie theater. I've only just seen it on TV. But that was a big thing back then.
Yeah, that's where I first saw it too. Well, what about The Peanuts, A Boy Named Charlie Brown, and Snoopy Come Home? Both of those have been issued by Paramount on Blu-ray. So
I still like both of those movies. I think that they do the Peanuts thing pretty right. I mean, definitely better than the Peanuts movie, which was an abomination.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But A Boy Named Charlie Brown is the better of the two. But and I guess some people might have, and I can understand where some people might have some problems with some of the singing and, musical numbers in it.
Rod McEwen.
Yeah, the Rod McEwen numbers, exactly. They don't always work, although I do like the main song, which I think is sung by Rod McEwen, by the way.
I believe it is.
And I don't know if anybody knows. I barely know who Rod McEwen is. He was a poet that was very popular in the '60s, and somehow got connected with the film. I think Charles Schultz was actually a fan of his work because he would always mention his work in the comics. So anyway, it's very good, and I think still kind of underrated, actually, in some ways.
I do too. Rod McEwen's biggest claim to fame was he did the English translation of Seasons in the Sun, which became, the big one of the infamous hits of the 70s, and but that was originally written by Jacques Brel, the French singer-songwriter, and he did the American translation and brought it over here, and so I think that was one of his early claims to fame.
And he had been nominated. Was he nominated for an Oscar for doing the song to the Prime and Miss Jean Brody? You know, Jean.
Yep,
Jean,
that's another
come
one.
on,
Yep.
You know that song. Okay, that's his too. So.
Yep.
All right. Well,
okay.
Those are good pieces.
Yeah, I'd like for him to release Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown. I'd like to see the other two out on Blu-ray eventually, because I really like Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown. That's always been kind of hard to find, and I think that's probably my favorite of all of them. I think it's really
that's
good.
The one I've never seen.
Really, it's my favorite. It really is. It's I think it's just so charming and funny, and it just totally works for me. Not that I dislike any of the other ones. Don't get me wrong. I like them all, but that one just seems I seem to like it a little bit better.
Okay.
But anyway, so how about the Karate Kid Part 3?
I've never seen it. Is it any good?
Oh, yeah. Well, each one of them was a little lesser than the one before, so it's not as bad as the next Karate Kid, but it's not as tolerable as the Karate Kid Part 2.
Is it still one with Ralph Macchio? Or
it is.
Okay.
It is. I'll never forget, there was in the Leonard Maltin's TV movies, when he reviewed it, he said Ralph Macchio returns as the kid, the 27. He says Ralph Macchio returns as, and he puts 27 years of age in parentheses as the kid.
Uh-huh.
So it is a little ridiculous when he's pushing 30 and still playing the Karate Kid, but
But luckily, he had that sort of Robbie Benson kind of effect going on.
He
did.
Yeah.
He kind of stayed eternally young for a little while there.
He pulled it off.
I mean, and if you think about it, like he's playing like a college freshman or something in My Cousin Vinny.
Mm-hmm.
So that works, and he's probably
Sure.
30 years old there. So okay.
Well, yeah. So we'll move along to the next week, which was the 13th, and the Wolfman: The Complete Legacy Collection from Universal and the Frankenstein Complete Legacy Collection were issued on Blu-ray, and a lot of people have been complaining about these because there's some films that appear in both sets. So the film content that you're actually getting that's unique to each set is there's only a handful of films that you're actually getting that you won't find in the other set. In other words, in the Frankenstein, you'll also find Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, and Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So those movies just appear in both of them, which I think they should have found a way around that. But anyway, if you feel like you must and you're a completist, there are a couple of films in there that are new to Blu-ray. So, and I don't.
What are the films in each one? I mean, do you have that? Available?
Yeah, sure. I can get it for you. Yeah, it's of course the original Frankenstein. That's pretty obvious. And then you have the Bride of Frankenstein, the Son of Frankenstein. You've got, let's see, I think it's House of Frankenstein here. For some reason, it's not pulling it up. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. I think that covers the Frankenstein collection. That's pretty much it. And then you have, for the Wolfman, in that one, you've got the original, the Wolfman, of course, and then Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, and then it's House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello. Yeah, so anyway.
Okay.
You get the point, so. Yeah, so some of them just cross over, but anyway, but Universal did put out the 8-film horror collection from Hammer, which includes a couple of those Hammer films that Universal distributed, like Curse of the Werewolf is one of them. And
the thing with Oliver Reed?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Curse of the Werewolf.
That's a good werewolf movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So anyway, so
they're trying. Universal's trying to revitalize the old monster movies in theaters, because they're looking for they're always looking for the next franchise. And I think the first test of it will be Tom Cruise's The Mummy.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm curious.
I guess I'm curious. I don't know. I've never been a huge I never found the Mummy to be very scary, because I always just felt like he was easy to vanquish, because you could just outrun him or something, or
light a match.
Yeah, light a match,
set
whatever.
Those bandages on fire.
He just seems sort of lumbering. I know they probably fixed that in those mummy movies that I hate, that I refuse to watch with Brendan Fraser. They probably made fast mummies for that, but I don't know. I just don't find the Mummy a very interesting monster.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's
Frankenstein is the king of the monsters, and that's the reason. That's what they should have led off with, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but Frankenstein is lumbering too. But I think Frankenstein is the king of the monsters because of the tragedy of what he is. Like it's a deeper resonance, that character, than the others. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about. I mean, I guess I don't know who the Mummy is. That's one thing. I mean, I think that they try and remedy that in some of those Hammer movies, where they try and tell you the story of the person that was mummified. But I still don't find it very compelling. But, I mean, yeah, you're right, Frankenstein. But Frankenstein is huge, too. I mean, the Mummy never really seemed huge. He just seemed like an average.
If you're back at going after Tom Cruise, I mean, something that large.
Yeah, he would look.
Our shortest.
He would look
star.
he'd look like Billy Barty sitting there next to the Mummy.
Hey, Adam, is this collection? Is it called the Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em collection?
Love it. No, just the Hammer 8 film the Hammer 8 film horror collection is what it's called. So it's I mean, I can't seem to get the list to pull up that has all of them listed. So I'm not even exactly sure what, but I do know Curse of the Werewolf and I think Horror of Frankenstein. Those are two that you'll find in there.
Okay.
So, so those are, it's that. But anyway, so moving right along, as we were discussing earlier, what about Beyond the Valley of the Dolls? That's one of the Criterion titles that made its way. And the one written by Roger Ebert, of course.
Of course.
Infamously. And this set actually is... it's quite interesting. They did a really good job. It's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is not something you normally would expect to see from Criterion, I wouldn't think. But surprisingly, they decided to do it, and so the extras that you get on it, I'll have to mention these because they're pretty. There was a British television show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. That ran in the late '80s. It was called the Incredibly Strange Film Show, and I'd like to have every episode of that. It was a BBC show where they profiled horror film directors, and they have an episode of that show as an extra here, and it was the one they did on Russ Meyer.
Okay. So
that's one of the extras that you do get, and if that I can vouch for that show. It's really, really quite interesting. They did a profile. They did one on Sam Raimi, which this was when he had only had 3 films under his belt at that point. But they went ahead and did one on him, and I remember it was the first time that I'd ever seen any of the home movies that he did before he became, a director, and that was really interesting seeing his those Three Stooges. He was doing those copies of the Three Stooges shorts, and that was how he started with High School Buddies, and there were clips of that in the that they included in that. So it was interesting. If you can get your hands on it, and they may be on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway. But also on this Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, you have, of course, high definition digital restoration. You've got the commentary from 2003 featuring Roger Ebert. You've got the commentary from 2006 featuring a bunch of the actors. And there's a new interview with John Waters for this set. And there's interviews with cast members from 2005, and there's documentary and several live documentaries from 2006 about the making of the film. So, and a booklet featuring an essay by Glenn Kenny.
Our good friend, Glenn Kenny.
Our good friend, Glenn Kenny. So, there you go.
All right. I was going to say, I go into Hollywood Elsewhere. I take a look at that site quite a bit these days, and Jeffrey Wells and I guess Jeffrey Wells and Glenn Kenny have a kind of a history of kind of poking at each other a little bit, and I just find that I just find that kind of that clash one of the reasons that I return to the site again and again.
Yeah, the comment sections get really hairy when Glenn Kenny starts it.
They do. And I'll tell you what, he's the master of the insult. He can really he can really cut to the quick.
Sock it to you.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I did get a list of those titles, by the way, in the Hammer box. They are Brides of Dracula, Curse of the Werewolf, Phantom of the Opera, the one with Herbert Lom, Paranoia, Kiss of the Vampire, Nightmare, Night Creatures, and The Evil of Frankenstein, not Horror of Frankenstein.
Okay.
Evil. So there we go. Now we've been corrected. So.
All right, that's good.
And that is what. So Lionsgate has reissued Evil Dead 2. I'm not sure why, but I don't know that any of the extras are any different. But they do have a reissue of Evil Dead 2, and maybe it's because Ash vs. Evil Dead is starting up again. It starts tonight, as a matter of fact, the night we're taping it, the 2nd of October. So anyway, so there was a 30th anniversary edition of Stand By Me reissued. So 30 years, that is hard to believe, I have to admit.
That's a movie that I think I'm alone in, just thinking it's just okay. I know that's a very important movie to a lot of people. But even back then, I thought, it's just a little, I don't know, there's something about, it. It just doesn't, it's a little too Goonies for me or something. I don't know. I was too old for it then, and I'm sure I'm too old for it now. So
yeah, it has its moments. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. There are some moments I like in it, but as a whole, it's just kind of average. That was my take on it then, and So anyway, so the Twilight Time titles, we'll get into some of those. Eye of the Needle is one of them.
I'm excited about seeing that again.
Yeah. That's Donald Sutherland, and isn't that directed by Richard Marquand, I believe?
It is.
Yeah, he did. The director of Return of the Jedi later on, and died way
very
too young. Yeah, right. Yeah. Just a couple of years after Return of the Jedi's release. So, yeah.
And Kate Nelligan.
Yeah, Kate Nelligan.
We got to mention her. She's very good in it. So
definitely.
It's a spy movie, but kind of really more of a thriller than anything else. So it's good.
Well, what about From Noon Till 3 with Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland from 1976?
It's sort of like a comedy western, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Which is it's weird to think of, Charles Bronson doing comedy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I watched Mr. Majestic the other night.
Still good, I think.
It is. It's good. It's like it is so gritty, though. I mean, it's so ugly. Like an ugly movie. But I mean, you can really feel the, influence of just all of Peckinpah on the entire industry at that point. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is. And there's what about Murphy's Law? Speaking of Charles Bronson, from 1986. There's one of your one of the films in the canon.
Wow, I can hardly even remember that one.
J. Lee Thompson directed. So.
Oh, he was big for them.
Yep.
And I mean, somebody who constantly collaborated with Bronson too. I mean, I think they did many movies together.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Okay. And then there's
I'm trying to track down the soundtrack for 10 to Midnight, the Charles Bronson movie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Just because it's an off-ball title that I'd like to own.
Okay.
I like the off-ball soundtracks, and that's one of them.
Yeah, that's a good one though. It is a good score. Yeah. So, Twilight Time also issued 9 to 5, which I would say there's probably a demand for that one. It'll probably sell out, most likely. And then they also issued Bobby Deerfield. How about that?
Have you ever seen that, Jamie?
Seriously asking me that?
I figure the answer is yes, but I mean,
yes, I have.
Is it really bad?
Is it really bad? It is just shy of Lifetime Disease of the Week movie. It's not good, but it's interesting because I think that's probably the first big career misstep for Pacino, because he had just come off such a string of great movies one after another. But he always said that he felt closer to that character than most of any he's ever played. And I think it is in exploring the isolation of celebrity that makes that a meaningful character for him. He's not great in it. It's not a great movie, but it is a kind of interesting curiosity in his early career.
That's a good way to describe it.
Is there a lot of race car stuff in it?
There's some.
Okay.
There's some.
But I agree. It's nowhere near.
Martha Keller is not good in it. She's not. She's kind of embarrassing in parts of it.
She was always not so great, even in things like.
And they were, and they were fucking at the time, so they were
okay.
Well, my take on it was, it was nowhere near as good as bad as what people said it was. I mean, it does have that Disease of the Week feel, but it's not terrible. It's watchable.
What's worse? Okay, what's worse: Bobby Deerfield or Arthur?
Bobby Deerfield, because I can find it. I actually can enjoy Arthur. I mean, it has Alan King in it. I like some of the stuff with the kids in it.
True.
I like Arthur is enjoyable for me to turn on, like you guys were talking about, on a Saturday afternoon. Bobby Deerfield.
It has the greatest movie theme in it.
Right, yeah. Milk and Cookies.
I tried to watch Arthur a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't get more than 30 minutes into it. And I was just like, I can't do it.
Another career misstep, of course. Well, here's speaking of missteps. Here's one. How about Jekyll and Hyde together again? Yeah.
Oh man.
Now, who remembers the great Mark Blankfield, who has the lead role in this film?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm drawing a blank field.
Yeah, well, he was, and this is really getting into some deep trivia. You remember when ABC had their answer to Saturday Night Live called Fridays?
Yeah.
And well, he was like their they're the one they were trying to break out as a star. He was going to be their Belushi.
Oh,
Martin Blankfield, and so they did this. And this was one that turned up on HBO. You're talking about those early 80s HBO. This one turned up all the time on HBO, but usually really late at night because it was R-rated. You know, it was kind of one of those. And it has Bess Armstrong as the female lead, which she kind of fell off the map too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I might be interested to go back and look at it just as a curiosity item because it's been 30 plus years since I've seen it. But it's probably
just
the
the
only
mention of
film.
that title just made me laugh. Just hilarious.
Yeah, well, I mean, what other film has Mark Blankfield in the lead? So we're the only people talking about Mark Blankfield, as you so often say.
Absolutely. In the entire nation.
Yeah. And Jerry Belson directed this, if that gives you any idea. So.
Yes.
So.
You know,
anyway,
a few months ago, last year I rewatched. Speaking of Jekyll and Hyde, I rewatched Mary Riley, and which is really like the most kind of gray, dowdy, sullen movie, and incredibly brave of Julia Roberts to do at that time when she was America's sweetheart, because this was in the thick of that popularity she had.
Yeah.
But apart from all of that and the disappointment of seeing Julia Roberts in something like that, we're two decades away from that now. There's a lot of great visual stuff in that movie. I just thought it was a gorgeous looking movie. And it really set in a mood that kind of seeps in you. It could be better, it could be more dynamic, but it's worth reassessing, I think. Okay.
I haven't seen it since it came out in theaters, so I'd be interested. I mean, I remember it was delayed. The release was delayed on and on and on. They had 3 release dates that they never made, and there was a lot of post-production tinkering, I think, and so I'd be interested to know the whole story behind what went on there. But
find a good clean copy of it, because it's visually it's one of those Italian like Felipe Russolo. It's just one of those Italian DPs that did it. It's very expressively shot. Speaking of which, a Blu-ray wise, like clean versions of Blu-rays. My friend was watching the new Shout Factory release of The Thing. Adam, and I don't know if you're about to reveal that or not, but he said
I was going to mention
he's watched it. He's watched it many times, so I guess we can go ahead and talk about it now because I just brought it
up.
Yeah,
sure. Why not?
But he's watched it many times, and he has one of those 4K TVs, and he said it is the best he's ever seen it look. This transfer.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't gotten my hands on a copy of that, but I wanted to, and I've heard the same thing. I've heard that they retain just the right amount of grain in the transfer, because that was the criticism of the original issue from Universal put out in around, I guess it was around 2008, and everybody said that it was just too pristine. It doesn't have any sort of film grain or anything like that. It looks too pretty, so to speak, if that's possible, and too perfect. And this one, I think they went back in there with Dean Cundy. He supervised the transfer on this one. It is a 4K transfer that they did from scratch, and they went back to the original 70 millimeter soundtrack, audio track that they had, and they did the remix on the sound on the disc from that. So they really went all out on this.
Man, can you imagine seeing? I didn't know that they released that in 70 millimeter. Could you imagine seeing The Thing in 70 millimeter?
Oh, it would be fantastic.
That would be mind blowing. I did see it in the theaters when it came out, but I didn't see it in 70 mil.
No, I didn't. I can only dream about what that would look like.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, they did a really good job with that, and
Dean Cundy, a really interesting DP. I think he's got a much better, more colorful and diverse career than a lot of people give him credit for. I mean, early on when I first started being conscious of DPs, I thought, man, he did a great job with Halloween because that was the most famous movie he shot.
Oh yeah.
And not knowing much else of his career, I kind of dismissed him as the horror guy. But he's all over the place. He's done a lot of great work. I mean, even something like Back to the Future. You don't think of being a Dean Cundey movie, but it is.
Yeah, all of them, all three of them. He shot them all, and I think his work on Psycho 2 is really good. I mean, it's another horror film, but I've always thought that was one of his better efforts. Was Psycho 2. He just did such a great job with that. And anyway, but he's one of the greats. I totally agree. And so
he did Roadhouse.
That's true. That is true. You had forgotten about that, but it is true.
That's when I started to really love him. Right there, Roadhouse.
Yeah, Roadhouse, right there. So the other Twilight Time title I didn't mention was Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins. So we'll throw that one out there.
I enjoyed that movie. I'd like to watch that again.
Always surprised they never did another one of those, and just never happened. And there was talk of it, but just never materialized. But anyway, so what about the Raising Cain Collector's Edition? I know, this director's cut that's floating around, we kind of first found out about it on the show here, I think, and when we did the De Palma thing years ago, you guys did, and so it's on here. It's on this new double disc Blu-ray special edition of Raising Cain, and I did watch it. It's the first time I'd actually watched it, and I think it works a lot better than the original cut. That's for sure.
Now, does Pete Gelderblom, does he get a credit or what? Or
they do.
He's actually he's on the disc.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a featurette on him. Yeah, that's right. So,
I'd like to watch that, definitely.
Yeah, it's and then they've got brand new interviews with Paul Hirsch and several of the other production people involved in the several people that were involved in the production of the film are interviewed there on the first disc with the original cut of the film. But I think it works a lot better. I mean, it still has flaws. It's not as good as, say, Blowout or some of De Palma's classics, but it works a lot better. The flow is much better. So if you haven't picked that up, and you're a fan,
but when you're dealing with a movie like that, that movie's not meant to be structurally pristine.
That's
whole
true.
notion, the whole tone of that movie is unhinged, which is what I love about it. If I love anything about it, it's the fact that it's just kind of balls out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how it focuses on the Lolita Davidovich character. It's kind of reminiscent. The alternate cut is actually reminiscent of Dressed to Kill. I think the way it's structured. That's what it reminded me of. And it has more of a structure similar to that. But and that was just my take on it.
Even there's so many levels in De Palma movies. For me, or for people that are crazy about De Palma and are looking for them. So at the end of the movie, Raising Cain, and it's actually been many years since I've seen it, but the end of the movie where they're arguing at the hotel, it's the climax of the movie, and guns are being fired or something, and there's all these references just in that one scene to Hitchcock, to, but it goes deeper than that. Like there's a baby carriage that goes down the stairs.
Yeah.
So it's a riff. It's a riff on De Palma's riff on Eisenstein.
Yes.
I mean, it's one layer after another. It's almost like he's playing with the audience, and I think the best thriller directors do that. I mean, the prime example being Hitchcock, and De Palma's in that vein.
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. It's real busy, and I think that's at the same sequence where the woman, the psychiatrist who's suffering from cancer, her wig disappears, and there's the quick shot of her being that John Lithgow's the Cain character, has tied her up or whatever and ran off with her wig and disguising himself. It's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Odd, but interesting. Yeah, but so Yours, Mine, and Ours with Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda. What do we think about that one?
It's kind of a. I get that mixed up with 6. You get egg roll, which is another. But I do. Is it not like a? It's kind of like a Brady Bunch thing, right? I mean,
it is. It is, but I think it's a fun movie. I really do.
Okay.
It's the remake was really atrocious. The one with Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo, I believe. But,
okay. Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, but the original is really charming. It's one of the better of those late '60s family comedies, and I think it's still a lot of fun. I really do.
But am I right? It is kind of like a Brady Bunch thing, right?
Yeah. I think they've got I forget the total number of kids they've got in that house, but it's like ridiculously 14 or 16, something like that. And
okay.
He's got 8, she's got 6 or something like that. And
okay.
Anyway, it's that kind of thing. So I
always thought
Brady
it was
Bunch.
unusual, like this, the attempts at getting Lucille Ball in the movies. Because I just not too long ago watched The Facts of Life, which is a mid-'60s sort of kind of a square stab at doing a kind of sexy Billy Wilder-ish kind of comedy, but with Lucille Ball and Bob Hope. They're married, and but they're married to other people. They're each married to other people, and they're thinking about having an affair when they go on vacation together. And it's just weird. It's weird to see. I guess it's weird for me to feel like she's not playing Lucille Ball in the movies. Of course, when she's on I Love Lucy, she created a kind of, or even the Lucy Show, she created kind of an alternate kind of character. It's just weird to see her not in that character in the movies. So, Henry Fonda. I'm always into watching Henry Fonda. So, So I've never seen that film all the way through. So.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and revisit it. I haven't had time since it's been issued, but I'm planning on it. So, yeah. So, what about the Transformers the movie 30th anniversary edition from Shout Factory?
What, the animated thing?
Yeah, the animated one with the Orson Welles voice and
You've Got the Touch. It's got the
that's
song,
the one.
You've Got the Touch.
That's the one.
I probably I would never watch it. But I like that song. I think that song's funny.
Of course. Well, for fans of that, it's out there, and then Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin. Remember that one? That was one of those when they had the resurgence of 3D in the early '80s, and that was one of those that came out of that crop. So,
with which one? It's
Metal Storm.
Is that the one with Molly Ringwald, or?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and speaking of 80s films, how about The Return of Godzilla, or it was known in America as the Godzilla 1985.
Yeah.
And I don't think the original Japanese cut has never been issued in America that I'm aware of, and this is it. This is which I've heard is actually much better than the American version, but The Return of Godzilla from 1985. That's out there, as
if
is
Jerry was here, he could tell us all about it.
I could, yes, absolutely. And you're speaking of Roadhouse, there's the 1948 Roadhouse. That's the one with it says 41 years before Patrick Swayze bounced into the Double Deuce, another Roadhouse gave audiences a thrill. Cornel Wilde and Ida Lupino. So,
okay.
Yep. So there's that, and Tenebrae, that's the Italian horror film that has the Dario Argento, Anthony Franciosa, John Saxon, of course, and the film has a loyal following. So a lot of people can rejoice that Tenebrae is being issued by Synapse. And there's The Monster of Pedras Blancas from 1959.
Now that's a masterpiece. That is a masterpiece of bad movie making. Like I would put that like in the vault with Plan 9 and so forth, and Manos Hands of Fate.
Hands of Fate, yeah.
Great. I remember watching The Monster of Piedras Blancas one night with a friend. I was hanging out over at his house, and we found this movie, on late night, and it has the credit. It shows the credits, all the people who are in it, and then there's one special credit card that says, "And introducing the Monster of Piedras Blancas as the Monster of Piedras Blancas."
Oh, that's great.
And that's the moment where I said, "Oh, this is going to be fantastic," and it was. So I'm glad that's out there. It seems like people are kind of talking about it a little bit. So
yep,
I think that's nice.
It's out there. Olive Films issued that, and Criterion issued The Story of the Last Chrysanthemum from 1939, which I've never seen.
Is that like an Ozu?
It is. The director is Kenji Mitsuguchi. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And they say it's one of the first uses of the long take in a film.
Okay.
So if you're a film history person and you want to check it out, it's out there. Like I said, I've never seen it, so I can't vouch for it. But anyway. Let's see, the De Palma documentary made its way to Blu-ray, but it has no extras on it, just a trailer, I think. So it's kind of surprising. I thought there'd be a lot of outtakes and stuff, but nothing there. There's a 30th anniversary edition of Aliens, and then we have a couple interesting things that came out the 20th of September. Beauty and the Beast, the 25th anniversary edition, and the Coen brothers' first film, Blood Simple, Criterion, did the honors of issuing that, and they did a really good job. Brand new transfer, and some nice extras there. So if you're a fan of Blood Simple, then now it's time to revisit.
Did you ever see that version of Blood Simple that they when they re-released it a couple of years ago, I don't know, it might be a decade ago now, but then they came out with it on DVD, and they gave it when they re-released it, I guess the Coen brothers hired an actor to play like the head of the studio who was re-releasing Blood Simple, and it was like a phony, a phony studio head. And anyway, they when they re-released it with on DVD, they got this actor to do like a phony commentary track.
Yep,
playing
I have that one.
Character, playing and it was. I thought it was one of the funniest commentary tracks I'd ever heard, because you just have to listen to it, but it's so clever. It's like it's right up there with the Spinal Tap commentary and so forth. It's one of the great commentaries. I wonder if they kept that.
I don't think they did. I don't think it's there. They've replaced it with some new ones, but so I think if you have the other one, you might want to keep it. It's actually out on Blu-ray. The other one, the one you're talking about, which that's the one I have. But, I haven't picked up the Criterion one yet, but I'm sure they did a great job with the transfer as always. So how about Beware the Blob from 1972?
Larry Hagman.
It is the film that J.R. shot. Remember, that was the tagline when it was reissued in 1982, I think, or 80 or 81. They reissued it in the early 80s, and that was the tagline. So Yeah, but you know you're in for an early 70s treat when Godfrey Cambridge is the first victim in this film. So you know what to expect. And there's Burgess Meredith and Carol Lindley and Cindy Williams and, of course, Larry Hagman. And, as I said, Godfrey Cambridge.
I didn't realize that Hagman was in it. I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, he's in it. He plays a bum in the movie. Yeah. So homeless man, whatever. So
okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Wasn't there talk of remaking The Blob not too long ago? Like remaking it?
Yeah, there
again?
was.
Is that still happening? I mean, like, God, we had one in the 80s.
I thought it was great, the one from the 80s.
30
Not
years
bad,
ago.
yeah. Not bad, for sure.
Yeah, so, yeah. Well, another Criterion, not a Criterion, but Olive is getting into the line of collector's editions. I'll get it out. And they've got a line called Olive Signature, and their first issue on that would be High Noon and Johnny Guitar. Those are the first two titles.
Interesting. On Hollywood Elsewhere, I guess Jeffrey Wells did a piece on High Noon and commented how he was commenting on how, you know, in the climactic moment where the clock is reaching high noon and there's that very intricately edited piece where they're cutting to 1 second shots of almost everybody in town and everything, and it's very intricate. And he said it always felt wrong to him because the music is playing and the music's very timed out, and the cuts should be happening on the beats of the music. But he said he always felt it was a little off. And he's right. He found out that they were like 4 frames off, and so he found some guy that actually fixed it. And anyway, I just thought that was interesting that he noticed that. High Noon is one of the great movies in terms of editing. Still,
Yeah.
Johnny Guitar is a really, really fascinating movie as well, and one of those movies that really cement Crawford as a trailblazer, I think. And you could say that a trailblazer, I mean, specifically in the, and I'm not making a joke here, but specifically in the lesbian community.
Yeah. Very, very much so. I mean, that whole story with Mercedes McCambridge is in it too, and she's also similarly, lauded in that community. But that's just a big movie in the gay community in general, and also one of Nicholas Ray's most unusual films, which is actually saying a lot.
It was unavailable for many years too, so it's good to see it out there. But the 1942 version of Cat People has been issued by Criterion, and of course they did gussied it up with all kinds of great extras, of course. And the 1986 horror film Dead End Drive-In has been issued by Arrow. It's one of Quentin Tarantino's favorites. That's how they're billing it. But anyway,
I have a movie poster for it, which is one of the lowest rent movie posters I have. But boy, it's bad. But
yeah, I never saw it. I just skipped it. But there's a 30th anniversary edition of Labyrinth out there, and
another like really popular 80s movie that while I appreciate like a lot of the technical stuff that went into it, I really don't find myself moved by it at all. There's a lot of those 80s movies that people love that keep trying to like the Goonies, that people just adore for some reason. Mainly because they were kids. It was like the first. They were like the first films that they owned when they got a VHS machine or whatever.
Yep.
So there's a lot of, but I just don't think, I've just never understood the appeal of Labyrinth.
I agree. It kind of left me cold too. As much as I like Jim Henson, and I'm a big fan of Jim Henson, but I'm not a big fan of Dark Crystal either. I think that it has a very sluggish pace. I think he was great on ideas, but he was not good in terms of storytelling, in my opinion. And
yeah.
And there's some great moments, but the moments don't add up to great films in either case, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I tried rewatching Dark Crystal. I read the Jim Henson biography last year, and it made me want to go back and revisit Dark Crystal, and I did, and it just didn't hold up. It just didn't.
When I think of Jim Henson, I always, I went to an arts high school, so it was theater, dance, music, and art, all those disciplines. And I remember a day in my sophomore year there where Jim Henson and Sammy Davis Jr. both died on the same day.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I remember everybody being crushed about Jim Henson passing, and I was like, we work in or we study in an art school, and nobody's bringing up Sammy Davis Jr., who's probably the most talented entertainer that has ever lived. I was crazy about Sammy Davis Jr. even back then.
I was too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But Jim Henson is a genius. I mean, not to take away from him, but I just thought it was interesting.
I just remember, they were kind of expecting Sammy Davis Jr. to pass because he had terminal throat cancer, and so that I think everybody was kind of expecting that. And then, you turn on your Entertainment Tonight. That was my experience, and they said, well, Sammy Davis Jr. has passed, and Jim Henson, and it's like, Jim Henson, where'd that come from?
I mean, yeah.
And Sammy Davis Jr. did look a little like a Black Muppet, which was ironic.
I mean, that's probably one of the most shocking celebrity deaths. I mean, as far as catching me off guard, I just remember the feeling of it. It's like I can't believe that happened. It was one of those just big shockers.
Yeah.
But, anyway, yeah. So Salem's Lot from 1979, the original, directed by Tobe Hooper. This has a brand new audio commentary with Tobe Hooper, in addition to a new transfer. Yeah, it sure does. So if you're, it might be worth it just to get it for the commentary, because the other one was bare bones, the original issue of Salem's Lot. But I do think Salem's Lot is pretty effective in a lot of ways. There's some pretty good jolts in there, and still holds up.
Me too.
I think. Yeah. So.
I do think that has great elements in it.
Oh yeah.
I think James Mason as the lead baddie is a great casting choice. It's got some creepy, the creepy guy. God, who's the character actor who was so
Jeffrey
good?
Lewis?
I can't remember his name.
Jeffrey Lewis, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, when he was floating in midair and scratching on the window, and it's got really effective moments in it. And then I remember when I was younger watching it with a girlfriend of mine, and we were both marveling at how tight David Soul's jeans were. And my girlfriend at the time, she came up with one of the most clever lines I've ever heard, and it makes no practical sense, but it's just funny. I said, God, those jeans are tight, and she said, yeah, he could make cream of wheat in those things, or something to that effect. And I was like, oh.
That's great. Oh, that's really great. Well, Warner Brothers has issued a couple of these King titles. They also issued Cat's Eye and It, the original television version, which I think is half of a good movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
here's hoping the feature film will be much better.
I'm hoping. But anyway, and Cat's Eye, of course, is directed by Louis Teague, who made Cujo and
Alligator.
Alligator, yes, which I love. Which I'm clamoring for a Blu-ray release of that. Lionsgate controls the rights to that, and I just keep hoping they'll do something with it. They won't license it to anybody. Shout Factory, Scream Factory's tried to get it from them, but yet they won't release it. And it's like, come on, guys, put that out there.
They should. They're putting out everything.
I mean,
they're putting out everything else.
Yes, he is. Yeah, Louis Teague. Yeah. Yeah, he also made Lady in Red with Pamela Sue Martin, which I have an affection for as well. So.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's you know, I always kind of associate that with more Roger Corman, but yeah, I mean that's true. He did direct that.
Yeah,
I like that movie too.
I do too. Yeah. But Twin Peaks, the original series, along with Firewalk with Me and The Missing Pieces, it's being billed as. Paramount's put all that out in a big box set, so I guess that's in anticipation of the new Twin Peaks heading down the pike.
Man, I cannot wait for that new Twin Peaks. I cannot wait for that.
Oh God, that's gonna be. You know what? That's gonna be like the most buzzed about upcoming TV show. And personally for me, I can't think of another instance where I've looked more forward to a TV show.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's going to be it's pretty exciting. I can't wait either.
I'd love to see Firewalk with Me on Blu-ray.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That might. Of course, I guess it'd be nice to have all Blu-ray upgrades of all the other the episodes of the show too. So, yeah, it might be worth it.
But wouldn't that be difficult since, you know, it was shot in standard def?
Yeah, that was. Well, I don't know. It was on film, wasn't it? So if they had the original film elements, they might be able to do something with it. I don't know. So.
By the way, what's also interesting is they shot all of Westworld on film.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. But I guess you know it's Jonathan Nolan, right? So I mean,
right.
They're both very pro film, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised.
Early reviews on that are very good too, by the way. So I'm hoping it lives up. But,
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Collection, which includes the two Bill and Ted films, of course, with lots of extras. That's from Shout Factory. And we're talking about Charles Bronson films. How about Cabo Blanco, which is also directed by J. Lee Thompson and is kind of a reworking of Casablanca.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is. I didn't say it was a good one, but a lot of
we talked about this last week actually. The whole Last House on the Left, the Virgin Springs, Thousand Acres, Lear, remember?
Yeah. So, yeah, this falls in squarely into that line of or into that same wheelhouse. So Blood Diner, there's a new line from Lionsgate, and they're taking all these Vestron video titles that were on VHS back then, and they're calling them the Vestron Video Collectors Series. And one of the latest titles is Blood Diner, directed by Jackie Kong from '87. And so, you know, there's a bunch of these. They're doing Return of the Living Dead Part 3 is one of the upcoming releases, and so it's a lot of. They even have the Vestron Video logo on the front of the Blu-ray, which is kind of neat. So
I like that.
Yeah, it's
Did they try and make it look like a old VHS?
Yeah, they kind of do. Yeah. It's funny. Just confession. The ringtone on my phone is the old Vestron, the little musical blurb that you'd get at the front of those VHS tapes. I made that my ringtone. So when my phone rings, you hear the old Vestron people are like, "What the hell is that?" It's an inside joke. But,
have you ever? This is kind of related to what you were talking about there, but have you ever gone on YouTube? If you've never seen this, I recommend everybody go on YouTube and look up. I think you just have to type in scary 70s TV and movie logos or something like that.
Yeah, I've done some of those. Yeah.
And what you get is, you know, all of those things like that would end the TV shows back then. You know, like you know, they'll have the PBS one or whatever. It's just little you know, the Viacom, the Paramount. that is one of the funniest things ever, if you ask me. It's just seeing all of those logos, and they are scary. I don't know why they're scary.
I know.
I guess they were trying to break through to you, in television. They were trying to grab your attention with them.
Yeah.
And but they end up being quite startling and weird. 'Cause they are creepy. They
are, yeah.
There's just two ways about it.
Yeah, well, there's a documentary that's made by the same guy who made Room 237. You guys probably know about it. It's called The S from Hell, and it's a short documentary about the Screen Gems logo. And people who have an actual phobia about the Screen Gems logo. And it's great. It really is. And it's only like 10 minutes, but the funniest scene in it is this guy is talking about how he was terrified by the Screen Gems logo, and his sister knew he was scared of it. So she would, when it would come on after the Monkees or Bewitched, she would pin him to the floor and take her hair and rub it in his face and go, "Screen Gems, Screen Gems, Screen Gems," and and the kid was terrified. So and as an adult, he's still terrified by the Screen Gems logo. It's a hoot. But look that up. You can find it online. I think Vimeo's got it, but it's called The S from Hell. So it's
I'm
right.
gonna look that up.
Yeah, you need to look it up. It's pretty fun. It's good. I laughed out loud quite a few times.
Yes.
But another one of those, by the way, Vestron Video Collector's Series, another title is Chopping Mall, by the way, from 1986. So...
am I wrong in thinking that there's first of all, there's no actual killer in that. It's like robots or something, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's it's just robots. These kids camping out in the shopping mall, and these robots that are security guards. They go crazy and terrorize the kids in the shopping mall, and they're hiding in the mall for some reason. I can't remember. No, they're trapped. I think it is like a high-tech shopping mall, and they get trapped. And anyway, it's funny because in the credits, Paul Bartel and Mary Warrenoff are listed, but it's been so long since I've seen it, I can't remember. But she swears up and down. I did an interview with her a couple of years ago. Swears up and down she's not in the film. Even though she's in the credits. And she takes great umbrage with people who always ask her about Chopping Mall. She says, "I'm not in the film." So, for whatever it's worth, but they still bill her as like third or fourth on the credits.
I think I'm going to, I'm writing for this site, Zeke Film now.
Yeah.
And I proposed to them an idea of doing like a monthly, like a sort of like a weird movie list. Like I want to take... Like, the first one that I'm going to do is about pie in movies. Like, all the movies that a list of 25 movies that have major scenes that revolve around pie.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I know. It's the history of pie in movies. And I'm always trying to think of, weird little things like that to do. And what would be great is a list of, mall movies.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Because you can start by, scenes from a mall, obviously, and Paul Blart Mall Cop. But but then you get into things like Chopping Mall and
Silent Partner, isn't that?
Silent Partner's a good one. That's a very good one.
Was it Day of the Dead? That was the shopping mall?
Dawn of the Dead. Both of them.
That's true. That's true.
Both versions. I don't know. I just think I also remember that Series 7, The Contenders, has some mall scenes in it, and which is a great movie if you've never seen that. Series 7, The Contenders.
The Blues Brothers, of course.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd like to start thinking of more.
Yeah.
So if you guys can think of any, send them over to
me.
The Jason show, he had he has us doing lists like every time I do a show, and I never prepare for those shows. So just to be a smart aleck, I'd prepare my own list of like really off the wall list. So I'd come on and I'd say, here are the top 3 scenes involving the crashing of a vendor's shopping cart, like the street cart. So I'd say Remember Temple of Doom when Short Round drives over that one street vendor's cart, and then you have the hot dog cart scene in Sleepers. That puts the whole plot in motion, and good stuff.
That's funny. That's a good one too.
Oh yeah. Well, we talked about a little bit ago Decalogue when we first started. That's out now, and that
feels like 11 hours ago.
Like 11 hours ago. That's right. But no, it's the. In case anybody doesn't know, I'll briefly say that it's directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski, who's probably best known for the Red, White, and Blue trilogy, Three Colors trilogy, and this was a series of 10 films he did for Polish television in 1988. Each one of them is revolved loosely based on one of the 10 Commandments. And what makes this set pretty special is, for one thing, they remastered all of them from the original film elements, and these were in standard definition as well, like you were talking about earlier, but they've somehow gone in and remastered them from the original elements. And there are a couple of them that actually were shown theatrically, and those versions are here as well, and they're actually in widescreen. So there's a couple of these films that are actually presented in widescreen as opposed to the 4x3. So lots of great documentaries and remembrances from people who worked on them, and it's powerful filmmaking, and each one of them runs about an hour. So I would say if you're a fan of great foreign cinema, I would say investigate the Decalogue, because it is, if you can invest the time, and they're really easy to digest. You can, they're only an hour, so if you got 30 minutes here, watch half one, and then watch the other half later, and that's the way I've been doing it. So it's good stuff, real powerful.
I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it's good, very good. So we'll move along real quickly with these last couple of titles. So we've got Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, the Clint Eastwood film with Kevin Spacey, and Lady in White from Scream Factory from I think 1988. And we have An American Werewolf in London, the 35th anniversary edition. And
I still love that movie.
I do too. Yeah, I think it still works. And The Shape of Things to Come from the 1979 version with Jack Palance. I don't remember that being all that good, but anyway.
Yeah, I barely remember that from HBO. Like, just barely remember seeing the commercials for it and stuff.
For sure. And Private Lessons.
Another HBO mainstay.
Yeah, this was Sylvia Christel and Howard Hessman, and directed by Alan Meyerson. And I get this confused with My Tutor. I don't know why, but I always got those two, because they both came out about the same time. Yeah. But it's one of those sex comedies from the similar to Last American Virgin, something like that. I get all those. They kind of run together.
My tumor.
Oh.
My tumor.
My tumor. My tumor. My tutor.
We should do that. We should do parodies of old cable mainstays. Like, instead of My Bodyguard, like My Right Guard, about a stick of deodorant or something.
There's enough of them, trust me, there really are. But Valley of the Dolls, we mentioned Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Well, Criterion also couldn't resist releasing Valley of the Dolls as well. With Susan Hayward, Patty Duke, of course, and Mark Robson directed, and cult classic it certainly is.
Sharon Tate.
Yep, Sharon Tate also. Mm-hmm.
God, she was unimaginably beautiful. Oh,
yeah,
my God, Sharon Tate was gorgeous.
Yeah, she certainly was, and looks great in that film. And then there's two from Douglas Sirk, two films on one disc. We have A Scandal in Paris is one of them, and the other one is A Scandal in Paris is the only one that's listed here. So, but it's a twofer. There's two on the disc, but I'm not seeing the other title. But anyway, if you're a fan of Douglas Sirk, the guy who did Written on the Wind and so many of those other Technicolor melodramas that inspired later Far From Heaven, then you might want to check it out. So I think that pretty well covers everything for the month of September, I believe.